In this video, I would like to show you the usage of a new tool called elm-review-derive, which can greatly help to speed up developing Elm applications by providing code generation capabilities right in the code as you're editing it. To demonstrate this tool, I will show you how we're going to add two new features to the To-Dos MVC application that was written by Evan Czaplicki. And we're going to improve it slightly. So there's two things that I would like to improve this application. One of them is that in this application, we are using the implicit way of serializing our data to storage, to local storage. Specifically, what we're talking about is that the ports in Elm have this capability where some kinds of data types can be automatically serialized into JavaScript values to be used in local storage, but not all of them. And here we're just throwing the entire model into JavaScript, which is then saving it into local storage. And then we're retrieving it in flags, again, using the same implicit mechanism. And this is a nice little feature for people new to Elm. In most mature applications, we don't use this feature. We use explicit encoders and decoders to be able to control what values are sent. And we can see that in this application as we add to-do items. For instance, if we enable a filter and then we reload the application, we still don't see any of our to-dos. Maybe we don't want that. We don't want to persist view state, like for instance, that a thing is being edited or other things into storage. We just want to store the actual durable data and keep the non-durable data outside of local storage. So let's do that. So I've refactored Evan's codes very slightly by extracting this module that holds the main data type, that is a to-do entry. This is very trivial refactoring, and this module is fairly bare bones and just adds two helper functions, and we're going to add our decoders in here. So let's start by writing a decoder. So I'm going to write a decoder for an entry. And now I would like to implement this one. Now I'm going to, in our terminal here, run the tool. And it's saying, oh, look, we need to fix some stuff. And I'm going to accept that fix. And right away you here see that it has generated a decoder for my type. And this is a fairly reasonable, it's just serializing into an object these fields that match the names of the fields in my entry, which is pretty much what I can expose it. And similarly, I'm going to write an encode function. To make things easier, I have made a little shortcut here in my editor. And how to do this, you can find out in the docs, but I'll press Ctrl-Alt-D, and this is going to insert the debug to-do statement for me and run the thing in my terminal. I can just accept it, and here is my encoder. How this works is that this tool will look through your code for debug to-dos and find their associated type information. And based on that type information, it will try to derive an implementation using various information it can extract from your source code. So this is good, and this gives me the encoder I wanted. Now I go back to my main thing, and I will need to set this stuff up to use values. So I'm going to change this to value as well, and then I'm going to want to say encode here. So, and for init here, I result with default, and this is going to, we're going to call this flags. And we're going to call JSON decode value as encoder here. Okay, let's implement this encoder decoder. So we can do the same thing. So this is going to be JSON decoder for the model. Let's press our key combo. And this has done some interesting things. So let's talk a little bit how this works. So one fun thing is that it has recognized that this decoder is exported correctly from this module. That is the type we want. So it automatically used the decoder we built in the next step. So this is great. However, for some of the fields here, it's using other encoders and decoders that are defined in this file. And in this case, that wouldn't be what we wanted. We want to use different ones, so we would have to adjust this. But actually, in this case, this is all stage that we actually don't particularly want to persist. So we can delete all of this and edit this very slightly. So we're going to say entries, I'm going to do empty model entries. Okay. This, like so. This. Like that. And this is kind of the advantage of using code generation instead of using some sort of macro or other functionality, in the sense that we can adjust the way this stuff works. So we're going to just do some of this, generate some helper functions. We don't really care about any of those. We can change our view state here, refresh, and see that it reloads correctly to the default value. Let's add another feature. We would like our entries not to just be on and off, but because we're going to do a little bit more complicated software, we actually want each entry to have a status. And I made a little module called status, which actually is opaque, which is going to has some interesting consequences, has a couple of helper functions. And we're going to want our entry to have a status rather than a completed. So we're going to this is going to be status.default. And for completed, we want to be entry.status. And we want to be status is completed. Now, for the decoder, we need to update it. We could just regenerate it. But if we do that, we see that it will make a helper function for this. But in our helper function, it tells us, yeah, I don't really know how to do this. And that is correct. Because status is opaque, there is really no way how file here at entry could possibly decode it. We actually need to help ourselves out here and make a decoder for the other file. So let's do that. Let's make now we know the drill here. We need to make sure we've imported that. Run our let's make an encoder right over edit. Expose both of these. And then we can delete this helper function here, and we can say status.decoder. Now let's regenerate our encoder here. And you see right away that it actually picked up status.encode for us. So we're sort of sorted. Now we need to fix a few issues here. So we're going to change this. We're going to remove this checkle. We're going to say check should have, instead of, it should take a status. And this. And we're going to here make a little status selector. Taking the liberty to build the UI for this. But this will need us to use for our status selector here. We are going to need we're going to need two functions. We're going to need to have a way to list all the statuses so we can select them, have a way to turn them into strings. So let's use elm-review-derive to do this. So let's build all as list status. we can do that. Very nice. And I'm going to do toString as a status to string. Again, generate that. Now, I want to maybe add a space here to just make it a little nicer. Let's expose these functions. And here we can say, oh, hey, I can change these up. It's very nice. Because if I update this, they see it disappearing. That's probably indicating might be something wrong somewhere around my decoding and encoding. Maybe we made a mistake somewhere. So let's write some tests. The best test we can write for encoding and decoding is what's called a round trip test. So let's write one of those here. Okay, so we've written our test. We need to forward some, and we need to write our fuzzer. So we're going to do like that. And we're going to run our thing, and this generates a fuzzer for us. The status fuzzer can happen again for the same reason because it's opaque, but in this case we have a fuzz value status all solves the problem very nicely, and we can run. We can test. And it says, I'm expecting a function called tag. We don't have it. Turns out this is actually this works slightly differently, so we can adjust our thing. Maybe I want to say, actually, you know what? We want to reuse this toString logic here. So why don't I just say toString arg is going to be how I want to do this. I can adjust these things very nicely now that I have a test. It says, oh, actually, the in progress, because it has a space, isn't working correctly. So maybe I can do that. And I have an application with 2 new features and a test in good time.